Welcome in to Outkick the Show. I am coming to you live from a remote location in upstate Michigan. I am on vacation. Much to my wife's chagrin, I immediately saw this story break this morning. I tapped out of all obligations for vacation today. I am now back in my undisclosed northern Michigan location. And I am ready to break down an absolutely massive story for you surrounding Urban Meyer and Ohio State. What was known, what was not known. You know that when you're the hardest working man in all of sports media, even when you are on vacation, you're always working. So I am here for all of you. This is a massive story. It's not being covered yet very well, I don't think, by the mainstream sports media. And so I'm going to walk you through everything. As a heads up here, I'm also breaking my vacation to come on tomorrow morning in hour 3 for Outkick the Coverage, my radio show. So I'm going to be on hour 3 hosting the show. We're going to have Bret McMurphy on. Bret McMurphy obviously broke the big story about Ohio State today. He will be on live tomorrow morning at 8:20 Eastern discussing the latest. This is obviously a breaking news story that's continuing to evolve as we speak, and so it's possible that things may happen. This also is the lesson whenever you are in the world of media. Whenever you go on vacation, big stories are likely to break. So here I am trying to get away right before the football season officially gets underway, and we've got a massive story. All right, I'm going to break through all of it. All of you Ohio State fans who are out there beating the drum, demanding that there's no story here, you're not right. You are biased. I'm going to walk you through everything. This is a massive story. I think before all is said and done, Urban Meyer is going to lose his job, and I will explain to you why. But let's start here with the basics. By the way, I am Clay Travis. This is Outkick the Show. We usually do it every day around 3 o'clock Eastern. I'm typically in my house, in my home studio at Outkick. Right now, I am from my location in northern Michigan on vacation with my family. Facebook, same thing. We're here all the time. You can share this show. Sportsbookreview.com. Usually I've got the banner behind me. They are the presenting sponsor. If you enjoy gambling, checking out all the odds, make sure you go to sportsbookreview.com. And also my friends at thehomeloanexpert.com. My guy Ryan Kelly will hook you up all over the nation. If you need a new mortgage, if you need to get pre-qualified, if you got too much credit card debt and you need to wipe it out, thehomeloanexpert.com. All right, this morning, about 10 a.m. Eastern, this story comes down from Bret McMurphy on his Facebook page, which we will discuss momentarily the irony of, which is amazing, which is that ESPN fires Bret McMurphy, and then he breaks this massive, well-reported, well-researched story on his Facebook page because ESPN has decided they don't need actual good college football reporters anymore. But let's begin with what I'm reading directly from Bret McMurphy's report. I don't want you guys to not understand what's going on here. This is McMurphy's report. All of the coaches' wives knew. Okay, let me go back in time a little bit and discuss this with you. If you don't know, last week we had Bret McMurphy on the show on Friday. And I said at that time, I said, this story I think is going to potentially grow because the question is, what did Urban Meyer know and when did he know it to steal a line from Watergate? This kid, wide receiver, at the time he was a kid in 2009, allegedly beats up his pregnant girlfriend, domestic abuse when they're at the University of Florida when he is a graduate assistant, I believe. Urban Meyer and his wife Shelley investigate then, determine that there's no truth to it or that they can't really decide what's going to happen. They get the case to get dropped. Nothing is brought further. In 2015, things continue to go awry. There's lots of domestic abuse in this relationship, and this is where this story picks up. Courtney Smith is the wife of Zach Smith, who was the wide receivers coach at Ohio State until the last couple of weeks when he was fired over these allegations going public. Courtney says all of the coaches' wives knew. They all did, every single one. And then she's asked about, and I'm reading directly from Bret McMurphy's story, when asked specifically if he knew of the domestic violence incidents with Zach Smith or if he'd been told of them, Meyer said, I was never told about anything. This is last week at Big Ten Media Days. Never anything came to light, never had a conversation about it, so I know nothing about it. I asked people back at the office to call and see what happened, and they came back and said they know nothing. However, this is again Bret McMurphy's report. Text messages I have obtained sent from Courtney Smith, Meyer's wife Shelley, and other Ohio State coaches' wives show Urban Meyer and a number of Ohio State assistant coaches were aware of Smith's domestic violence issues for years. And I'm reading from this story, again, from Bret McMurphy, which is posted on Facebook. You can go find it on my Twitter feed if you want to read it yourself. Courtney said Shelley Meyer, Urban Meyer's wife of nearly 3 decades, knew about the abuse that began in 2009, continued in 2015, and culminated with Zach Smith being served a domestic violence civil protection order last week. Courtney said she and Shelley often discussed Zach's domestic violence. Shelley said she was going to have to tell Urban. I said, that's fine. You should tell Urban. I know Shelley did everything she could. And in particular, it references the texts themselves. Shelley Meyer, I am with you. A lot of women stay hoping it will get better. I don't blame you, but just want you to be safe. Do you have a restraining order? He scares me. This is Shelley Meyer texting with Courtney Smith. Restraining orders don't do anything in Ohio. I tried to get protection order, which is what started this whole investigation, and that should go through soon. Finally, it's hard because you have to prove immediate danger. Legal system is tough. Basically, you have to prove he will kill you to get protective order. Shelley Meyer, geesh, even with the pics, didn't law enforcement come to your place ever? Okay, that's Shelley Meyer among other text messages. At Big Ten Media Days, Meyer was asked about the importance of wives helping coaches on and off the field and how Shelley impacted his coaching life. And he said as follows, she always weighs in as my best friend and soulmate. She's been right there with everything, especially when you're dealing with not who's going to carry the ball on third down. She has an opinion on that too. We chat about people. She has a great spirit, a great love of people. Her heart is always in the right place. She's phenomenal. Absolutely, I rely on her. 2 weeks after this October 25th, 2015 incident, there was, and I think this is the smoking gun, there was a text exchange between Lindsay Voltolini and Courtney, which shows that Urban Meyer talked to Zach Smith about the incident. Lindsay is the wife of Brian Voltolini, considered one of Meyer's most loyal staff members. Brian is Ohio State's football operations director, has been part of Meyer's staffs for 15 seasons at Bowling Green. This is Utah. Courtney, Zach's trying to make me look crazy because that's what Shelley is saying. Urban, just said Zach denied everything. I hope Urban is smarter than that. Urban, doesn't know what to think. I don't really care, you know. Yeah, don't worry about Herb. So everybody these are text messages that I am reading from. Zach Smith, these are scary text messages he sent. You were going to give me a chance a week ago, and now, even though I've done nothing wrong, you're done with me. I will kill that bitch and everyone involved for ruining my life. I'm getting myself right and getting punished. Fuck all of you. Just know that now I will find you when you're out. Wrong you're, by the way. I will come seek the douche you're with. Wrong you're again. I will fuck him up to the point no one will recognize him. This is Zach Smith threatening his ex-wife. And then the end of the story. So why would a coach at the top of his profession jeopardize his entire career and legacy? I'm reading from Bret McMurphy. And ignore his core values because of a sense of loyalty to former mentor Oral Bruce. And this is Courtney Smith talking again. Zach once told me, if he ever got fired and this all comes out, I'll take everyone at Ohio State down with me. This is Bret McMurphy's report about Urban Meyer and what he knew in 2015. Now, there are a couple of details that I want to run through. The text messages are out there. There are pictures of her domestic abuse. Several things that I want to run through with you now, and then I will answer your questions. First of all, there are massive Title IX issues at play here for both Urban and Shelley Meyer. Important detail. Shelley Meyer is a registered nurse and an instructor of clinical practice at Ohio State University College of Nursing. She would be bound by Title IX as well as Urban Meyer. So at an absolute minimum here, Shelley Meyer, when this woman is reporting to her that that she was being beaten up by her husband, that she was being threatened, Shelley Meyer had an obligation to go, but based on herself alone, she had an obligation to report this at Ohio State as part of Title IX violations. So too would Urban Meyer. And that's why I believe here that you're going to have to, at some point, Ohio State is, fire Urban Meyer and probably any coaching staff that is connected to this at all, because they all would have had Title IX obligations to report this. This guy was allowed to continue to coach at Ohio State for a long time. Okay? Urban Meyer is caught here in a total lie. Okay? Urban Meyer, for a long time, I would say, has tried to be holier than thou. He has tried to stop right there. I'm going to start blocking people if I look over and I see you posting things that are a mess. She is an employee. She has Title IX obligations to report because Zach Smith is an employee as well. If you know that someone that is employed with you is beating up someone and is an employee of the university, you have an obligation to report that, okay? I will get to the best defense that Urban Meyer can have at the end. I'm smarter than all of you Ohio State fans who are in here trying to get in and break down this story, all right? You don't need to try and share your opinion with me right now. I don't need you Ohio State Buckeye losers running around trying to defend Urban Meyer. I will make, at the end of this, the best possible defense that Urban Meyer can have, okay? I will break that down. I don't need your random hodgepodge of incorrect gobbledygook clogging up the comments, okay? Here is, I will break it down for you. I will give the best case scenario for Urban Meyer. These allegations against Urban Meyer are infinitely more serious than the allegations that were made against Jim Tressel. Remember, Jim Tressel got fired for tattoos and free cars and lying about it. Here you have allegations that Urban Meyer was aware that one of his employees was beating up his wife and putting children at danger, and he did absolutely nothing. Furthermore, he had evidence that this was a long-running story that had gone back to at least 2009, because he's on the record as having conducted an investigation into this alongside of his wife back in 2009. So it's not as if this story just came out of nowhere, okay? This story has been out there for years, and so this allegation was out there beforehand. We have direct text message allegations that Urban Meyer was told directly, one, that his wife was going to tell him, two, that he was told directly by one of the most trusted members of his coaching staff and didn't know who to believe, okay? Furthermore, in 2015, we have an allegation that Urban Meyer knew about it. We also have the statement from Urban Meyer as recent as last week that he knew absolutely nothing about this at all, okay? So, the question out there, Urban Meyer, I believe, is caught in a lie. Now, is he caught in a lie that could be proven in a court of law beyond a reasonable doubt? No, but he doesn't have to be proven to have lied beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. All he has to be proven to have lied is more likely than not. And based on this evidence, at a bare minimum, I think it's more likely than not that Urban Meyer knew. Unless you think that a monomaniacal focused head football coach at a college who knows every detail surrounding every player and every coach and everything that's going on in that program is suddenly not aware when one of his assistant coaches is alleged to be beating up his wife when everybody else is aware that it's going on. That's what you have to believe if you are going to believe Urban Meyer didn't know here, okay? This is pretty remarkable, okay? Here's the other thing. In retrospect, and I said this back then, if Urban Meyer at Big Ten Media Days had come out and said, you know what, I tried to look into this, I couldn't figure out what happened, I knew they had a troubled relationship, I gave the benefit of the doubt to Zach Smith because I knew him well and because I thought that being involved in coaching was helping him in overall some of his anger issues that he's had over the years, and I couldn't figure out whether this was just a bad divorce and a bad relationship. I couldn't figure out which side was telling the truth, and absent charges, I decided to trust the guy that I knew. Then I think he may have well been able to survive this issue, and that's what he should have said, okay? That's what he should have said last week. He didn't say that. He said he had absolutely no knowledge of it. This is why it's turned into a bigger and uglier issue, because now there is substantial evidence that Urban Meyer knew, okay? Now, I'm going to give you my argument right now for how Urban Meyer could keep his job, all right? I am pretending that I am Urban Meyer's attorney, that I am walking around breaking all of the different cell phones of all my coaches' wives and everything else. What you have to do is wall off knowledge of this incident on behalf of Urban Meyer. Okay? If I am the attorney, what I am saying is, Urban, you have to immediately say that your wife never told you any of this, even though she texted this woman that she was going to tell you, and that we know that Courtney Smith said it was okay that you knew. And first of all, your wife has to say, I never told Urban anything here. I didn't want him to get involved in this incident. I felt like I had a duty to keep this woman's story secret and personal to me. Even though I thought about telling Urban, I didn't directly tell him. Okay? That's what Shelley Meyer has to say. Shelley Meyer then is going to get fired at Ohio State. She's not going to be able to be a nurse there anymore. All of the pain and derision and condemnation is going to rain down onto her. So as a husband, Urban Meyer has to decide, am I going to let my wife take the blame and take the fall here? Is she going to be my fall girl as opposed to a fall guy, right? Am I going to push my wife into the front of the media fire here? Will she lie for me and say she never told me anything? Okay, that's step one. If I'm Urban Meyer's attorney, I'm sitting down across from Urban Meyer and I'm saying, look, if your wife says that she told you, you're going to get fired. So the first thing you have to do is get your wife to lie or say whatever she can in order to say that there's no truth to this, okay? Because then the knowledge becomes more difficult. On top of that, every other coach's wife that has sent a text message to Courtney Smith also has to say that they never told you. And every single one of your assistant coaches also have to say that even though their wives may have told them, they didn't tell you either. You have to wall off Urban Meyer, and your defense has to be, everybody else may have known, but nobody told Urban Meyer. Okay, that's the defense that you have to create. On top of that, you have to then say to Urban Meyer, again, I'm being Urban Meyer's attorney and trying to advise him here, remember, under Freedom of Information Act, all of your cell phone records are going to be requested by media. They are going to demand everything that you would have sent to anyone. Are there any text messages where you acknowledge in any way issues of Zach Smith from 2015 to the present? What, if at all, evidence exists to tie you or impute knowledge on your behalf regarding Zach Smith? Okay? Also, are there any emails? Have you retained any attorneys? Is there anybody at Ohio State that you have ever spoken about this in any way who might have an obligation not to you but to the university? All of those things have to also be examined in order to determine whether or not there is any way to protect Urban Meyer here. Moreover, okay, that's the Urban Meyer defense. I didn't know. I had no knowledge of it. When I found out about it, I fired him. You stick to your story until it can be 100% proven to be false, okay? You are a successful enough head coach. If you just lie, look in the comments. I'm sure you'll see them right now. There are plenty of Ohio State fans that will bury their heads in the sand and be like, there's no way Urban Meyer knew because he's more likely to beat Michigan than anybody else you can hire, okay? That's the truth. Enough of your fan base will believe your lie, or at least will suspend their disbelief because you are good, okay? Because you are good at coaching college football. So that is the question, okay? That's how you defend Urban Meyer. Here's the bigger issue that Ohio State is going to face, which many of you who are not Ohio State fans are undoubtedly pointing to right now. You are saying, wait a minute. You expect me to believe that Urban Meyer, who kept Aaron Hernandez eligible at Florida for years, who had all of these issues at Florida and miraculously got heart trouble and had to retire for a year till Jim Tressel got fired. You expect me to believe for Urban Meyer, who says he had such heart trouble because he was involved in every intimate detail in his coaching career, was not aware that Zach Smith was accused of domestic violence, and every single other person on your staff, as well as their wives and likely many local police officers, were all aware of this, and nobody told you that there was any possibility of this being an incident, despite the fact that you on the record have already acknowledged that in 2009 you knew about this potential issue before. Then the vast majority of the rest of the country is going to say, I'm sorry, that is complete and utter bullshit. And I think a lot of people out there are going to accept that argument. If Urban Meyer says, my wife never told me about this, a lot of people are going to sit back and say, wait a minute. You said, Urban, you said yourself last week about the importance of your relationship with your wife. You said, Urban Meyer, is this correct? Again, this is crazy. She's always weighed in as my best friend and soulmate. She's been right there with everything, especially when you're dealing with not who's going to carry the ball on third down. She has an opinion about that too. We chat about people. She has a great spirit, a great love of people. Her heart's always in the right place. She's phenomenal. Absolutely, I rely on her. You just said that last week, Urban Meyer. You just said that you talk about her about everything, especially about people. And you said that you rely on her all the time. And you're telling us now that when she had been told that one of your top assistant coaches was beating his wife, that she never talked about that with you and that you never had any discussion about it with her at all? Moreover, you never talked about it with any of your assistant coaches, despite the fact that several of them texted about it with their wives? You never talked to anybody else's wife. You never talked about it with any other assistant coach. You never talked about it with Zach Smith. You never talked about it with any police officer. All of those things never happened. And it's just a miracle, I guess, that suddenly you found out when this story went public. You found out just like us. All of that you expect for us to believe. That's the argument that Urban Meyer is going to have to make if he's going to survive that. That seems like a really, really difficult argument to make. And remember, Ohio State exists as an institution for something other than a football stadium and for something other than a football team. Most fans forget this, but a university like Ohio State is going to be fine regardless of how the football team does. They have an obligation and an endowment of billions of dollars. Ohio State is going to exist long after Urban Meyer's gone, long after you and I are gone. And if they fired Jim Tressel over lying about tattoos and rental cars, how in the world are they going to keep Urban Meyer lying about employing for multiple years a man who was beating the crap out of his wife? I got to tell you, this is a huge mushroom cloud of a mess for Ohio State. All right. That's kind of the story in general. What questions do you guys have about this story? I will do my best to answer them if I have not explained them. Again, if you're just tuning in, tomorrow morning, final hour of the show I'm going to be on, I will have Bret McMurphy on, who broke all of this story. Ohio State has not issued any kind of statement at all. Any statement at all. Nothing has come from Ohio State so far. Questions. Title IX, I think this is a major issue for Title IX, there's no doubt. How does Title IX cover? Well, Title IX covers here. Title IX would cover Shelley Meyer 1 billion% because allegations have been made against another fellow employee that she has reason to believe are true because she has gotten images of a woman being beaten up by another Ohio State employee. She would have an obligation to take this to her superior. Urban Meyer would have an obligation to take this allegation to his superior as well. So there is a massive story here about Title IX at a minimum. I think that gets into whether they could fire him for cause. And I think Ohio State could certainly fire Urban Meyer for cause here based on the fact that he did not report these allegations and based on the fact that he clearly would have had an obligation to report them under the Ohio State Employee Handbook. What other, if coaches colluded, I think anybody that's tied into this could be removed and fired. So, I mean, I think that at minimum, Ohio State has to begin a full-scale investigation. They probably need to hire an independent, I'm just kind of laying it out for you. They probably need to hire an independent law firm, one of the top law firms in the country, to conduct this investigation. I think, frankly, they would need to suspend Urban Meyer in the interim while this investigation takes place, because I don't believe you could allow him to coach while this is taking place. Promote somebody who has not been involved in this incident that you know has not been involved. Maybe it's Kevin Wilson as your interim coach. Maybe, ironically, it's Greg Schiano, but you have the issues in Greg Schiano's past from Penn State, so I don't know if Ohio State would want to promote him to take over as the interim coach. This is a massive, massive story. And again, the irony here, and I didn't really talk about this very much, Bret McMurphy breaks it on his Facebook page because ESPN has made the decision to fire him, even though they're still paying him. They have nobody to come on and talk about this show. I mean, you guys can speak to this better than I can. I'm on vacation in Michigan. How much play is this getting on ESPN right now? Is it the lead story? I mean, it should be the lead story far and away, all of this being talked about on ESPN right now. Is that the lead story on ESPN? I have no idea. So has it even gotten covered a bit? It's a fascinating story. Zero, almost no coverage. I mean, it's unbelievable to me. Again, the reason is because Bret McMurphy broke this report, and it just exposes how stupid ESPN has to have this story where they didn't do anything at all. They're paying him right now, but they're not allowing him to report for anyone else, which is amazing. He's got a new gig coming, Bret McMurphy does. Again, he'll be on our show tomorrow. He was on our show Friday talking about this, but this is an unbelievable story to me that ESPN has just been caught with their pants down and isn't covering it at all. It's an unbelievable, ugly situation. Can the text be verified? Well, that's a good question. I'm assuming that the answer is yes. Look, there's always the possibility in every story that somebody has made up everything whole cloth. So I don't know the steps that have been undertaken to verify that all the text messages are real. Again, Ohio State has not issued any kind of statement. And yes, there are ways to verify that text messages are real, right? I mean, like that exists in the cell phone vernacular. I'm not an expert. But yes, I mean, that would be, if I am representing Ohio State, that's one of the things that I want to verify is that the text messages are real. So far, we haven't had any suggestion at all that the text messages are not real. Okay. I think it's, I think, again, that is huge. Like, the text messages are massive, okay? The fact that she has gone on the record and said all of this is also massive. So, again, I'm going to block this guy. Again, I don't understand, you can go into the records and see whether or not that number has been texting. You can go through all this stuff. That is if you're going to argue that this is a lie, good luck. It's a tough case to make. And again, I'm going to block this guy. I have watched that video. That video doesn't prove anything. And so this is an ugly situation. And what I would say is this in general. I have made a living by being among the most objective people in a world where people are always not objective. Okay? And what I mean by that is the number, I don't even read mentions anymore on stories like these because I know what's going to happen. People with Ohio State in their Twitter handle are going to come on and they're going to say, you're biased, right? By far the number one thing that happens anytime a story comes out in college football or college sports in general is that everybody says the person is biased. And the person who alleges that the bias exists is always the person with the school name in their Twitter handle or a picture of themselves in school gear in their Twitter picture. Who do you think is more likely to be biased in this situation? Somebody like me, who all day yesterday was being told that I was insanely biased against Michigan because I said Michigan was going to go 8-4, and Michigan fans were all in an uproar. They're like, you're biased. You're biased against Michigan. You're biased. No, I am paid to give you my opinion every single day. And so as a result, sometimes you might agree with my opinion. Other times you do not agree with my opinion. But what I do is try to be as non-biased as possible. I look at the actual evidence, I assess it in an intelligent fashion, and I tell you what I believe, which is entirely what I've done with this show. All the time, college football fans come out and say, you are biased. I think Urban Meyer is, I'll be honest with you, a sanctimonious, fraudulent liar in many often times. I think he hasn't been happy enough to win football games. I think he's also felt like he needs to be selling the fact that he is a huge paragon of virtue. I think when he came out and he said, we only are going to recruit the top 1% of 1%, I think that was evidence of what Urban Meyer gets into, right? And I think in general, that Urban Meyer is far too sanctimonious. I think he's a great football coach, but I think he will lie when he needs to lie in order to advance his abilities. And so to me, this is a story and a perfect example of that. So again, go back and watch this whole show. I think I've answered all your questions. I'll be live tomorrow at 8 a.m. on my own radio show with Bret McMurphy. You can listen to that. You can go read my article that is up at Outkick.com, front page. Can't miss it. You can go through it. You can analyze it. You can break it down. I laid out both perspectives. I told you what I would do if I was representing Urban Meyer and I was trying to avoid him being drawn into losing his job over this. I broke down the issues as best I could see them. Again, this is a massive story. I don't think it's going away. I broke off my day of vacation to be able to answer it. I appreciate all of you. If you enjoyed this show, share it. My name is Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. Any last-minute questions from you guys as I go out, share the show. I'll be back potentially tomorrow to talk about this more. And this is, again, an ugly situation in general. Go read the article, front page, Outkick.com. You can go follow me on Twitter at Clay Travis. I appreciate all of you. My name is Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. Appreciate all of you. Talk to you again soon, certainly by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. See you guys.